All right, so we were talking about how neuroscience is a very broad field and it covers many different topics. So some of them include neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, neurochemistry, neurodevelopment, and these are just specific to the brain. And then some of the options here, I don't know, these are just my favorites because I'm interested in medicine, but it's neurology, which is a focus in the nervous system and the nervous system conditions, neuro-ophthalmology, which is a focus in the brain and the eyes and etc. So neuroscience, that definition that we had from Google is very it's very general. It's very like specific at the same time. It doesn't really give us the correct view of neuroscience. So it's hard to define neuroscience as it is again a very broad field. So a lot of times when we think about neuroscience, some of these questions might pop up in our head. What does it mean to be a neuroscientist? What does the average day look like for a neuroscientist? And like if we're actually thinking about the field, is it worth it? That's a big question for every single thing, right? This is just a little note that I wrote. If you enjoy a subject, it will always be worth it as long as you have a good work ethic and you're willing to commit. But I found a very good video. Um, this is a professor in Carleton University who has a PhD. He is a neuroscientist. So he explains very well what it means to be a neuroscientist. So I thought it would be very good to watch that video in the meantime.
Hi, welcome to the Career Services videos. My name is Stacey Ann and I'm a team member with Career Services. In this video, I'll be talking with Dr. Zachary Patterson. Dr. Zachary Patterson received his PhD in neuroscience at Carleton University in 2014. He worked at the Canadian Centre for Substance Use and Addiction as a research and policy analyst and knowledge broker until 2018, where he returned to Carleton University to work as an instructor in the Department of Neuroscience. Let's begin.
So, what attracted me to the field of neuroscience is actually a bit of a sad story. One of my best friends from high school developed a brain tumor when he was about 20 years old. And up to that point in his life, he was extremely fit. He was very active, very athletic. He had tons of energy. And the brain tumor changed all of that very quickly. So, his physiology changed drastically. He became lethargic, he became morbidly obese. And I guess this experience got me thinking, how is it possible that the brain controls all of this stuff, right? From body weight to energy homeostasis to everything in between. And around the same time, I was actually taking neuroscience courses at Carleton University, and I was just fascinated to learn about the brain and all of its complexities, and in particular, what happens when things go wrong. So that's kind of what started me on this journey, and I was hooked on this subject from a really early age. To this point in my career, I've really learned how to become a scientist. And that involves how to think about problems from this kind of big picture perspective, right? To take a step back and think about these problems from a much broader perspective, and then whittle an idea down into a solid research question that nobody has ever asked before or that we don't have an answer to. So I have developed an ability to appraise a full body of literature and understand how I can contribute meaningfully to that space. So over time, I have developed the skills necessary to design a series of research experiments that will help shed light on that research question from many different angles and multiple perspectives. Using a wide variety of research techniques such as stereotaxic surgeries to behavioral analysis, to, right down to the cellular and molecular lab techniques. I have learned how to carry out these scientific methods with an incredible amount or attention to detail so as to minimize variability in my research studies. I have also developed a wide range of statistical analyses that I can use as a tool to help interpret and analyze my data. I have developed communication skills, so both written and oral communication skills. So, for example, how to write effectively for different audiences, whether you're trying to communicate with other scientists or maybe you're trying to communicate with the general public. And I think finally, I've learned how to kind of spin my research into a story that I can share with others, present at conferences, and really help garner some attention to my research. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I wish people told me. The first one is you don't know what you don't know. And I wish someone had helped kind of broaden my perspective on the field when I first got into it. Neuroscience is so big and it's so diverse and it's multidisciplinary and it's continuously evolving. And when I was an undergraduate student or even a young graduate student, my focus was so narrow, right? I didn't realize how big and how many other opportunities were out there. I also wish that someone told me how important collaboration is in the field of neuroscience because, traditionally scientists work in silos, but we can be so much more effective and so much more productive if we're willing to work with others who come from different scientific backgrounds, who have different knowledge base and skill sets and perspectives on these issues. So I think taking a collaborative and multidisciplinary approach is really the future of this field.
It was really nice to hear about Dr. Patterson's career journey. If you have any further questions about the Department of Neuroscience,
So that was a video that. Oh, by the way, can you all hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, so that was just a video kind of demonstrating what it's like to be a neuroscientist, um, and how the things work, right? As a person who with that career, and as Dr. Patterson mentioned that again, it's a very broad field. Um, so I'm just getting some. Just getting something in the chat. Were you guys able to see the video or no?
Um,
Oh, nobody was able to see the video. Okay. I'm not. Were you guys able to hear the audio?
no.
No.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm not sure why that happened. Um, okay, it shouldn't be a problem because this everything is being recorded, so the recording will be sent out hopefully. Um, but it was just a video about a professor who got his PhD from Carleton University in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and he was just describing like what it's like being a neuroscientist and whatnot. But um, you guys didn't miss out on much, and it will be recorded, so everything will be sent out. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll send you guys the link just now. Take a look at this. Can you guys see the video or the link?
I can't see anything.
In the chat.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So that's the video. It's a short video. It's 5 minutes, but Dr. Patterson does a very good job at explaining how it's like to be a neuroscientist and what type of work he conducts and etc. So it's for your information. It's nothing. It's not specifically a part of this course, but it's just something that I found interesting. So you can take a look at your free time. Um, all right. Let's go back to where we were. So that was kind of like a little overview of neuroscience. It was a little boring, but it's kind of how things work. Introductions sometimes are not the best, but for me personally, I enjoyed this part when we dive deeper into the brain. So we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the brain features when you talk about neuroscience. So neuroscience, it revolves around the central nervous system, and the central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. it's an essential component of the of neuroscience, a specific field. But for this lecture, we're not going to talk too much about the spinal cord. We'll talk more about the brain, because if we do start talking, it's a lot of content, both for the brain and for the spinal cord. And yeah, so we'll talk about the lobes. These are different regions that are present in the brain, and we'll talk about the hippocampus, the brain stem, and the amygdala. Can you guys all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect, perfect, awesome. Okay, so we'll talk about the lobes. So starting off, the brain is divided into four main lobes, and each is with a specific role. So the frontal lobe is like your brain's CEO. It helps with planning, problem solving, decision making, and even your personality. And it's also where voluntary movement starts. So, and that area right there in that video is it's essentially highlighting the frontal lobe. And then we have the temporal lobe, which is near our ears, and it helps with hearing, understanding, language, and forming memories. So when we go a little deeper into the next few weeks into a little bit more brain anatomy, we're gonna learn about a few areas in temporal lobe which are specific for language and understanding language. It's pretty cool when we talk about them. There's something called Broca's area, and there's something called the Wernicke's area, which they focus on specifically understanding and allowing us to speak, basically. So allowing our thoughts to be put in words. And when those areas are affected, you'll see that some people, they're able to understand everything, but they're not able to put their thoughts into words, so they just stay silent. Um, and some people, they don't really understand what's being said to them, so they just speak back with a few words, and it's like sentences that don't make sense. But that's gonna where hopefully we'll dive deeper into that. It's very interesting. And then we talk about the occipital lobe, which is at the back of our head, so it's around over here, the back. And and it's all about our vision, so processing color, shape, and motion, whatever we see, pretty much. And then we have our parietal lobe, which it helps us process touch, temperature, like pain, and it also helps us understand the space we're in. It's called spatial navigation. So when we want to walk through a very narrow alley, we don't want to touch the walls, it's the parietal lobe that's active. So like it helps us with our spatial navigation, like understanding where our body is in that space. So we'll talk about the hippocampus a little bit. The hippocampus is a small curved structure buried deep into the temporal lobe, and its name comes from the Greek word seahorse. So a lot of times when we talk about hippocampus, um, there might be a seahorse associated with it. It's because it sort of resembles one, and it comes from that word. It's part of the limbic system, and it controls emotions and memory. And the hippocampus is mainly it has quite a bit of functions, but we'll just briefly mention it. If it's very important for memory formation, learning new things, and again spatial navigation. So a lot of times we'll see that one specific brain structure is not specific to a certain feature that we have. So a lot of organs in the brain, they work together to allow us to acquire something, if that makes sense. And then we have the brain stem. The brain stem is in my opinion, it's very underrated, because it's not talked about much, even though it's extremely important. It's at the base of the brain, right? It's called the brain stem, right over here. You guys see this area? And it connects, if we keep going down, it connects straight to the spinal cord. And it's made up of three parts specifically: the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. And the brainstem handles a lot of the vital functions in the body. So, for example, breathing, heart rate, digestion, sleeping. So, it's very essential for the vital functions that we have. And damage to this could be very, very, like, it could be very costly to our body. And just to add on, it also acts as like a relay station, passing on information from our brain to the body. Because again, it connects straight to the spinal cord. So that's a little bit about the brain stem. And then we had the amygdala. So this is next to the hippocampus. Yeah, it's next to the hippocampus, and it's kind of shaped like an almond. You guys see it right over here. It's kind of shaped like an almond, and it's also part of the limbic system. So the amygdala is our brain's emotional control center. It it does more than just emotion, but it's very commonly known for emotion. So things like processing fear and anger, and recognizing if someone is upset. So for example, if you are meeting a friend and you see that they're not in the best mood, that's your amygdala at work. And it also works to trigger the fight or flight response, right? So let's say you sense some danger, right? You're walking maybe into a forest and you see an animal, or you see a bear or something like that, and you have that adrenaline rush, right? And that's your amygdala at work. That's very important, because if you don't have that reaction to a threat, then you're likely just gonna walk into danger, right? So that's essentially what the amygdala does. It's extremely important for our our body. And I think I added, if your heart ever starts racing when you're nervous or scared, that's the amygdala. And this is something that I recently learned. I'm also a student, so I'm also learning something I recently learned. It's called brain lateralization. So basically, it talks about how the brain splits tasks between the two hemispheres. So we have a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere of the brain. And so something cool is that the left side of your brain actually controls the right side of your body. So the left side, so let's say, I would say the right side would be right here of our body, and the left brain is right here. So the left brain controls the right side of the body, and the right side controls the left side of the body. Does that make sense? Is that a little confusing? If
I
that's a little,
understand.
you guys understand?
Yes.
Okay. So this is called contralateral control, and essentially,
Yeah,
why?
sorry, I had a question.
Yes.
Is amygdala somehow responsible for example, adrenaline release in the body
So
when someone is stressed?
adrenaline release is different. Adrenaline is the um, hormone that's released into the body during
Yeah.
our fight or flight response, and that's released by I believe it's the hypothalamus, if I'm correct, but I could be
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that, again, as I mentioned, the organs, we have many different brain organs, and they all work together to sort of acquire what we want to acquire. So the amygdala, it works to trigger that response in our body. So it
All
works to,
right. Yeah.
yeah, it works to basically indicate to our body that, hey, there's a threat there, there's someone there, or there's something there that it might cause us danger. And then that pushes, that causes one trigger, and that trigger pushes the hypothalamus to produce adrenaline, and which is then released into the body. So it's a lot of machinery, basically. So it's not one organ, but yeah, amygdala does play a part in it for triggering our body's response. So yeah, good question. Um, uh, Also, we were talking about brain lateralization. So right side controls the left side of the body, left side controls the right side of the body, and they also have some things that the right and left side. They also has some things that they're specifically better at, I would say. So as we talked about the temporal lobe, right? We talked about, so the left side, the left side is more dominant for language, rational thinking, and mathematics analysis. So when we were talking about like Wernicke's area, Broca's area, that's specifically for language comprehension, language production, but that's again on the left side, right? So left side is more, again, language, rational thinking, mathematics. And then the right side of the hemisphere is more involved in our creativity, emotion, and like spatial reasoning. So as I said, it's not gonna be the long it's not gonna be a long lecture. So we'll just finish off with one discussion question. So your peer speaks to you about a headache he's having and several other cognitive issues. And upon further inquiry, you discover that he's having severe memory problems. So, using the knowledge you learned from this presentation, which brain organ do you think is most likely impaired? You guys can shout out the answer. Answer could be in the chat. Anybody have a guess? It's from the three. Yes, sorry.
I think temporal lobe controls our memories.
So
So
I should have given you the options. So here's the options, okay? It's the three organs that we talked about specifically. It's the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the brain stem. So from these three options, which one?
Yeah, it's certainly not brainstem. Um,
Okay, so we can cross that out.
hippocampus.
Hippocampus. Someone says hippocampus. Anybody else have any ideas?
can you just name all of them? I forgot all of them.
Yeah, no problem. So
Some
it's
of them.
the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the brain stem. So we
It's
got one.
hippocampus.
Sorry.
I think it's hippocampus.
Okay, so we got two for hippocampus.
I think that too.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we got majority of answers are focusing on hippocampus. So as you mentioned before, hippocampus is the one which is which works on memory formation and learning. So yes, it is a hippocampus. But it's a very yeah, I'm not gonna mention too much about it because this is also not my expertise. But yes, it is a hippocampus, and hippocampus focuses a lot on memory, and yeah, so good job. And then that is the end of the presentation. Yeah, does anybody have any questions for me regarding the content of the presentation or anything else? I know it's a short presentation, but it's meant to be short and it's meant to be simple because I don't want it to be like a lecture or a class, if you guys understand what I mean, because they get boring eventually, right? So I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be something that you guys can understand and take home with you guys. So is that any questions for me? Any questions? Yes, Aman.
Okay, so I have just basically a doubt like about the brain lateralization. Like if someone is left-handed or his like left part of body is more active, and it means his right brain is more active, and it's directly impairs like he is creative.
If someone is left-handed, is their right brain more active? So you asked if someone is left-handed, their right brain is more active. Is that the question?
Yes, like I asked, like if someone is left-handed, then it means like his right part of the brain is more active, and that does it mean like he is weak in the maths and sequencing? Like the left part of brain is responsible for maths and sequencing. So does it mean that he's weak in that or not?
Okay, so firstly, no, it does not mean that he's weak in that. And So what I would advise you again. I'm also, guys. For all of you, I know you guys got the email saying that I'm an expert, but I'm also a student like you guys. So this is not my expertise, but I will tell you this much, that handedness is not related to brain lateralization. So it's not like right hand is right side of the brain is used more. You know what I mean? So, but so it's not. So your question was basically their left side of the brain is, um, where their language and rational thinking is weaker. It's not weaker. That's it's a myth. That's a myth that I will clear up. So it's like, there was another myth. Some people may say that they're right-handed, or they're right-brained, or they're left-brained. That's not true, because both hemispheres work together. Even if you're left-handed or you're right-handed, the both hemispheres, they work together. So that part about the language or the left side of the brain specifically being weaker, that's not true. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, yes. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Awesome.
Like I was just following the myth. Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So I did have a few questions. The thing is, I wanted to do a Kahoot with you guys, but um, there was some technical difficulties. But I did have some questions in planned out. Do you guys want to do some questions just to talk about the content we studied?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. It won't be too difficult. Uh, so earlier in the lecture, we talked about the central nervous system. Which two structures make up the central nervous system? I'll give you guys the.
Can you repeat?
Yeah, sure.
Um,
So
yeah. Can I see it?
uh, I'll just repeat the question, and then Mary, I'll just get back to you. So,
Okay.
which two structures make up the central nervous system? So earlier we talked about the central nervous system. So there's two structures that I mentioned that make up the central nervous system. So Mary, go on.
Yeah, we've got the brain and the spinal cord.
Perfect. The brain and the spinal cord. Those two structures make up the central nervous system, and everything other than that is called the peripheral nervous system. So when we talked about the lobes, the four lobes, frontal, temporal, occipital, and parietal, which brain lobe is primarily responsible for vision?
Occipital.
Okay, so Aman said occipital. Anybody?
Occipital.
Occipital. Okay, good job, guys. It is occipital. So that's specifically. So that's at the end of. Sorry, it's at the back of her head, and that is responsible for vision. So that's correct. We also mentioned something which is responsible for our personality, planning, voluntary movement, decision making. One of the lobes again. Which one? Yes, Kitty.
I think it's frontal lobe.
Okay, Kitty says frontal. Anybody else?
I think the same one.
Okay, so yes, it is frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is a lot of it is about our rational thinking, our decision making, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I did study this recently. That so essentially, when we get angry or when we get upset, and we wanna say some things that we don't normally say, it's basically the blood flowing to the different lobes. So the blood is flowing to it's flowing less into the frontal lobe. So then we want to kind of burst out in emotion, basically. And then a lot of times we say things when we're angry that we regret afterwards, because at that time our frontal lobe was not the most active, basically. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, so let's say if if a person is having difficulty, or rather, I'll just I'll use another other question. You see, let's say you're hiking and you see a bear walking, and your heart races and you freeze right away. Which brain section is causing this reaction?
Amygdala.
Amygdala. Anybody else? All right, so yes, it is amygdala. We talked about the fight or flight response and the adrenaline rush and whatnot. So it is the amygdala. Good job. We talked about a specific part of the brain which connects the brain to the spinal cord. Anybody remember what it was?
Yeah, that's the brainstem.
Brainstem.
The brainstem. Good job. So we talked about how it has three components: the medulla, the medulla oblongata, the the what is it? Pons, and forget slipped out of my head, but the midbrain, the medulla oblongata, and the pons. So they're like directly at the stem of the brain, and they connect straight to the spinal cord. So yeah, and then let's do like um let's do one more, and then we'll call it a day. So let's say you're walking in a new neighborhood and you're relying on your memory to find your way back. Which brain region is specifically helping you to navigate? So A, is it the amygdala? B, the frontal lobe? C, the hippocampus? Or D, the prefrontal cortex? Yes?
I recommend this hippocampus.
Okay, we have the hippocampus. Anybody else?
The
I think so.
hippocampus.
Awesome. So yes, hippocampus is the right answer because again, we mentioned memory formation and learning. So yeah, that was a wrap for today. Um, my it might have been a little boring because it is intro to neuroscience, so we have to be a little brief in whatever we talk about. But definitely stick for the next few weeks, and we'll definitely enjoy. And we'll talk about how we'll talk about neuroscience, we'll talk about programming, and then we'll connect them together. And a lot of university professors are doing that right now because they're bringing the field of programming and neuroscience together because there's a lot of research basically going on in that. Even my professors right now, they're doing research in programming and neurosci and yeah. So hopefully we'll try and connect them. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much a wrap for today. Um, and yeah, thank you so much for attending the lecture. And hopefully, I believe the next session will be tomorrow, if I'm not wrong, and that's gonna be run by Nika, and he's our programming mentor. So um, hopefully we'll connect with you guys next week.
Goodbye.
Sorry, you study at Toronto University, right?
Yes, I do.
Oh,